So my name is Marcus Depuis, and just to give you a little bit of background on who I am and why I'm doing this. And I was sort of born into it because my mother taught yoga back in 1974, 75. So I had yoga in the house all the time, and so my mother was one of those pioneers, and she just set the yoga mat in the living room, and my sisters and I would sit and do yoga with her. And so a very young introduction. And then I'm the nephew of my mother's brother. And so my uncle, who's a man who studied yoga in India in 1970, 71, 72 with Ethananda, one of the greats of the past there. And so he imported a yoga that is, it's the original yoga, let's just put it that way. It was when we discovered it in the 60s, and it was like, oh, this is interesting. And so everybody was getting interested in bringing it over to North America. And so what has happened with yoga now, of course, and it's understandable, I'm not criticizing in any way, shape, or form, but what happens is when a tradition like that enters a new culture in a new country, it adapts and it changes. And so there's all kinds of evolution that happens, and you got all kinds of yogas now, a lot. And I give them all credit, it's all good. So I have another lecture that's called The Mind of Yoga. And in The Mind of Yoga, I describe Patanjali's 8 limbs of yoga and explain what yoga really is and how it all works. And all the developed yogas that I just told you about, the jhana yogas, the bhakti yogas, the kundalini yogas, they all fit within the umbrella. So there's nobody's canceling anyone out. It's really good. In fact, my lectures is very interesting. I have yoga teachers who come to it, and I've never had one be offended. And that's actually quite a line to walk. So, yeah. You know, my guru's better than your guru. That's a common one, right? Yeah. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I'll talk about something and I'll say, well, my master says, and then we end up with conversation. So, at a very young age, I headed off to India, and I lived in different parts. I spent over 2 years of my life in India, over 5 trips. Lived in different ashrams, studied yoga with different masters, and I went down to Tiruvannamalai, which is in the south of India. And just to give you an idea of the sort of thing that I would do, I would rent a bicycle, and I'd put it on the roof of a bus, and I'd go 50 miles or so, miles for the Americans, kilometers for the Canadians, and I would cycle back all day. All day I would just ride the bike back to my hotel. And when I would do that, I would discover things that were just absolutely not in the guidebooks, just outside of everything, right? And one of these trips, I came across an ashram, and I pulled into the ashram. It was absolutely beautiful. Great big banyan trees and just unbelievable calm. So I sat down by the tree, and a monk came out, sat beside me. One of the beautiful things about India is they speak English. A lot of English. You could be in China and find the same place. You're not going to talk to anyone. But in India, wow, lots of English. So I asked him, I said, it's beautiful here. Can I come and spend some time? He said, oh, you're welcome. So that was my first stay in an ashram where I actually did the daily routine of just meditation, breathing, and yoga. Now, I already had background in breathing and I already had background in yoga, but now I was just adding on a whole bunch of new experience, right? So that's sort of like the backstory of how I kept developing my knowledge in the yoga format, but I'm not a yogi in the sense that you won't see me in front of the room showing you how to stretch your body. I prefer younger folks to do that. And I'm more about the concept, and that's why my other lectures called The Mind of Yoga and The Science of Yoga, because they have the bigger picture. But through the years, I just kept on growing it. So it's almost wild. I mean, I can see that by the color of your hair and the missing hair that you'll understand what I'm about to say. Life really flies by. I have actually been sharing and teaching breathing techniques for 50 years. I'm 64, but as a 16-year-old, young man, I was doing it already because I was born and raised with it, right? It was part of me. So, my God, that's nuts. I know a few of you might say you got more years to brag about, but holy, 50 years. So I just kept doing it. So then I met a master in Spain, and we became business partners. And I translated his book, which is called The Art of Listening to Life. And The Art of Listening to Life is also related to another topic called Medicine of the Soul, which is just trying to understand how to hear your inner voice. And how to hear your inner voice, reawakening our ability to hear our inner voice helps us navigate life. It helps us navigate our path. In fact, life is always telling us what we should do. But people aren't listening. And so the art of listening to life became very important to me because breathing, bringing yourself to the present moment, tuning into yourself and your inner voice is a big part of what we're doing when we're breathing. So we partnered up. I translated the book, we lectured it and toured it all over Spain and Mexico and Costa Rica and Canada. And when we would do practices in the art of listening to life, my partner, his name is Joseph Soler, he would always say, well, before we do our practice in the art of listening to life, Marcus is going to guide us through a breathing technique. So then I would do that. As the years went on, I realized somebody needs to put this information together. Someone needs to put it in one book. Now, obviously, there are other people who have done it, but I decided to do it too. And so that's, I breathe, therefore I am. So again, there's an existential part of this. It also prepares people for, once you find center, you're also in a position to meditate. You're also in a position to get to these quiet places. And when you get to that quiet place, that's where you get to hear your inner voice. We have techniques in breathing too, where you ask yourself a certain question and then go into the breathing. It's a little bit like setting an intention when you do a lot of these practices. So that just grew and grew. And so for the breathing, it's important to know that they call it exercise. It's a breathing exercise. So you know what it takes to do exercise? It takes effort. And everybody says, well, I can breathe. No, I breathe. You breathe. We all breathe. But a breathing exercise is actually a concentrated effort. And when people ask me, do you have a breathing technique that can wake me up? Do you have a breathing technique that can make me hallucinate? Do you have a breathing technique that can lower my anxiety? Do you have a breathing? Yeah, there's a lot. But a lot of people treat it like a pill. Just give me the pill, I'll swallow it, and it'll be done. But with breathing, you can't do that. You have to practice. You have to learn how to actually fill your lungs the proper way. You have to learn how to experience the retentions. When you hold your breath, you're actually pushing oxygen to the far reaches of your body. You're doing stuff. And then when you hold on the exhale, you empty your lungs completely, and you hold. There's massive benefits that happen there. I'll talk more about that in a minute. So the history of yoga, the history of breathing, a lot of traditions all over the world have all kinds of techniques, right? But just generally, whatever culture you're in, whether it's an ancient culture, whoever you're dealing with, they're going to have one breathing, 2, 3 breathing techniques, Utenko, the Russians, they have these breathing techniques. They'll have 1, 2, maybe 3. In our yoga book, with David, Pyramid Yoga in Thailand, where I studied most, we have over 70 breathing techniques, and they all come from yoga. So yoga and the Upanishads and all the Vedas and all the history of yoga, when it comes to breathing, they're king, there's no question. There's just so many that you can do, right? So there's a lot of breathing techniques, lowering anxiety, boosting brain function, it helps you make better decisions. Like there's so much that happens with so many breaths. So they're all different. So, and the only way to really learn about it is to experience it. We can talk about it until next Sunday. Well, let me do that. So, but the only way you really experience it is by doing it, and that's really a key factor, right? In getting to understand what it's really doing to the body. I talk technical. My book actually talks about physiology. It talks about chemicals. It talks about what's going on. It talks about the hormones. It talks about what we're generating and all that, because people like to hear that. Why? Because science is the religion of the day. Everybody's really somehow following the science. Sometimes. But anyway, there's a little bit of deviation that happens in following each science, but that's the same as religion. Everybody has a different religion. Science does the same thing. It breaks up into all kinds of argument and discussion. So understanding what's happening physically in your body is important. It's pretty cool for some people. But the most important is to experience it and really know what it does for you. So again, boosting brain function is one of the big ones. What's in an inhale? Well, the inhale, everybody knows that it's oxygen, right? We're getting oxygen. But there's way more going on than that. So when you have oxygen coming in through your nose, by the way, when you come in here, there's a division that happens, and there's all kinds of processing that happens. So I'm going to just talk about the importance of breathing through the nose. Now, when you go on YouTube, now, the fact that I've been doing this for so many decades, I just have to mention, it's been very frustrating for me with people on YouTube who just discovered a breathing technique a couple of days ago, and all of a sudden they're teaching it, and they're going on about it. And so one of the worst things for me, I just want to tell you right off the bat, when you see a breathing coach on YouTube that says, inhale through your nose, exhale through your mouth, don't. Exhaling through your mouth is cheating yourself. You're throwing away information that your system absolutely needs. So when you go through the nose, we have the olfactory bulb, we have sinuses, we have parasinuses, we have nasal passages. You can't believe it. The air is being funneled through all these passages. Those are an analysis. It's analyzing the air that's coming in. That's why when there's toxicity in the air, you got bad air, what happens? Oh, what's that? There's a fire, there's smoke, there's contaminants, there's pollution, all those things. Those are sensors that's telling you what's going on, right? So it's very important for us to take in the air through the nose, because all this analysis happens. It helps your body regulate and self-regulate. Okay? Another thing that happens is really key, is we produce nitric oxide in the inhale. So if you take in air through your nose, really intensely, you're producing nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is fantastic for the vascular system. It expands it, it grows it, it increases circulation. When you increase circulation to your brain, you increase the capacity of thinking, making, all kinds of, improving your decision making, improving your clarity, all these things, right? So it's very important to breathe through the nose. I can go on and on about it, but now what I'm going to tell you, though, is you need to exhale through the nose. Those sensors, all those sensors are analyzing your output. When the system analyzes your output, it sends the information to your endocrine system, and your glandular system knows, oh, we're a little bit rich of this, we're a bit lacking here. So it is able to analyze what your exhale is, so that your system can adjust and keep you balanced and keep you healthy and keep you going. It's very, very important information. Just a stupid little example for those of you who know about cars. How did they fine-tune a car today? They put a sensor on the exhaust. They analyze the exhaust and go, oh, we got to adjust this, adjust that on the engine, and they get the engine working properly from analyzing the exhaust. Our system is the same. We analyze our exhaust so that we can stay healthy and functional and balanced and happy. Okay, so in the nose, out the nose. The only time that you go out the mouth, okay, I'm just going to comment on that, is just to release anxiety. I mean, we do it naturally. We have we have automatic reactions like the sigh, the sigh. That's natural. You don't think about, I'm going to sigh now. I think I want to sigh a few times, just to make myself feel better. No, you're automatically doing it, right? So, if you want to decompress from a day, you want to just get into a breathing session, you want to do a little routine, then you could do this. In. Sure. Okay? So you can do that. You can do that. But that's just to get going. It's to throw some stuff out, right? But once you get into a breathing technique, in the nose, out the mouth is not the way. There's 10,000 other ways to do it, right? So what's in an exhale? Everything gets analyzed. So the main thing everybody knows, just like the inhale, right? You know there's oxygen. On the exhale, it's CO2. Everybody knows CO2. People don't know CO2. Do you know that CO2 is 1 atom of carbon and 2 atoms of oxygen? That's destroying the planet. You see how false and ridiculous that is? They've actually taken a term that actually makes no sense. It's not. CO2 is life. It's oxygen, CO2. We're doing it with the trees. We're doing it with everything. CO2 is extremely important. Do we have contamination? Do we have pollution? Do we have stuff that we need to control? Yes, we do. But it's not called CO2. So, that's another lecture. So, I'll just finish that by saying, do you know that farmers with their greenhouses will buy CO2 and they pump CO2 into their greenhouse and everything grows faster? They've been doing that for forever. All of a sudden it's a problem. So it's not a problem. It's something that we just have to learn to, So in our exhale, another thing that happens is, in my research for the book, I basically came up with, in the exhale, there's up to 3,000 elements. 3,000 elements. So CO2 is the king, but there's a whole much more. And I just looked it up yesterday, 3,500 elements in our exhale. So there's a lot going on, and trying to understand it scientifically all the time is not the only way to go. Again, experiential. Another thing about the olfactory bulb and nasal passages and all that, we have an anchor at the back, and that anchor is called a sphenoidal cavity, right? Which doesn't matter, okay? So I want to make the point. And what that is a little anchor where our pituitary gland is anchored. So imagine, the pituitary gland, which they call the master gland, which actually runs the endocrine system, is anchored in our nose, analyzing in and out, knowing what messages to send out to your endocrine system so that you can maintain health, help maintain balance, maintain everything. So you're cheating yourself of that information. But the fact that the pituitary gland is actually attached to the brain, well, it is the brain, sorry, it's a part of the brain, but it's attached to the nasal passages. Isn't that a sign that you should be breathing through your nose, right there? So what happens when you breathe through your mouth, you bypass all that. It's just a straight hole, boop, into goes, right? And so I had a yoga breathing teacher the other day who said that you should breathe through your mouth really intensely because you get more prana. Prana is life force energy. The Chinese call it qi, ki, and prana. Life force energy. Life force energy is created right here. And when you inhale, you are actually taking in the oxygen so that your body can spread that oxygen around your body, and you are generating prana. Prana is related to consciousness. Prana is life force energy that drives another part of us that physicists and all the people who use mathematical formulas are having a hard time pinpoint. There is no formula for consciousness, at least not yet. It's the same thing as faith. When you have a great faith and you believe in God, there's no mathematical calculation for that. It comes from inside. It comes from you. It's your connection. And breathing can help you get to that place. You have that relationship with consciousness, that relationship with God, that relationship with oneness, that relationship with the everything, the all, right? So, there's a really interesting idea here is, if you stop breathing, what's going to happen? You're going to lose consciousness. We actually use the term lose consciousness. It's in the air, it's in the ether, it's all part of it. Right now, if you get into a lot of the research that we're doing on the quantum field and the Akashic record and all that sort of stuff, where is it? It's in the ether, it's out here. It's not in, it's not local. There's a lot of belief systems, a lot of thought leaders right now who are talking about the fact that it's non-local. It's not here in us all the time, all the information and everything. We're actually inhaling it and exhaling it all the time. So remember, if you stop breathing, the first thing you're going to lose is consciousness. So that's how important it is, okay? It's a super important factor. We're generating all kinds of beautiful hormones and chemicals. You know, nitric oxide is one of the beautiful ones, of course. But I mean, when you get into some longer, deep breathing techniques where you're breathing through your nose a lot like that, you're producing DMT. And DMT is an awakener. It's something that raises your awareness of what's going on around you. So it's really deep. There's a lot going on there. So in terms of learning breathing techniques, and I appreciate the idea that we were going to breathe and stuff, but it's time isn't an issue, right? Yeah. So, but I will talk about one fundamental breathing technique, which is called the Savitri. Savitri. Some people might have heard of the square. It basically, what you do is you just use the square to visualize. Okay. So you inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. Now that's a balancing breathing act, okay? That's a breathing technique that actually, if you're feeling anxious and you've had something happen that you're not happy about, you just hung up the phone, it's like, sit down and do a Savitri. Another thing that's really important for you to know is you only need to do it for 3 minutes, okay? This isn't about sitting down and breathing for an hour. You don't have to commit to this massive thing. You can do it for 3 minutes, 5 minutes. The benefits are tremendous. Just 4, 4, 4, 4. Now, remember I said we have well over 70, probably closer to 100 breathing techniques within our book, within my realm, right, what I'm using. So there's a lot to learn about how to breathe properly. And the first thing, I mean, the only thing that I'm going to go through today in terms of how it's done is you have to breathe into your belly first, okay? And really the way you do it is you literally... That's where you start. Get that belly going, put your hand on it so that you can feel it. You can even push it if you want. Oops. You can even push it out a little bit, right? So the second thing that I will tell you about how to just get the breathing going properly is do it in 3, okay? Fill, fill, fill. Okay, so you go. And now you're using the 3 lobes of the lungs. So we've got the bottom lobes, and then the middle is behind the rib cage, protected there, and then you're filling up the clavicle. So you go 1, 2, 3, exhale. 1, 2, 3, exhale. And I can only give you these fundamentals because we just don't have time, right? We don't have time to go into it. But what I want to mention is that I do one-on-one consultations. That's mostly what I do. It's really difficult to do breathing in groups. Everybody is different size, big lungs, small lungs. You know, I'll say inhale for 4 or inhale for 8. The person will say, well, I'm full at 4. Well, stretch it out, make it last for 8. That's how you do it. But then you got all these people that are all trying to understand how to do it at one time, and it's just very confusing. So one-on-one, you can contact me anytime. We have a little leaflet with the website, and you can just book a session. It's we do 2 hours. I do 2 hours with people, and we go through some breathing, but we end up going a lot of places because one of the reasons that people want to improve their breathing very often is because they have an issue, some symptom of some sort and all that. Well, then I end up going into the deeper reasons for the condition, the symptom, whatever it is that's going on in a person's life. In fact, I've done 2-hour breathing consultations where we got to the end of 2 hours and we didn't even talk about breathing. We went to all the other things that make our life challenging at times, right? It's a challenging place, this physical earth. So there are amazing breathing techniques for getting rid of anxiety. Okay, one of my favorites is called the Ekadasi. It's from India, of course. It lasts 11 days. And what it's about is getting rid of trauma. When you're breathing and you're moving your body and you're really moving your organs around, you're moving all kinds of stored trauma around. You're moving it. And so one of the things I like to say in the exhale, what's in an exhale? We talked about CO2, we talked about all the components, the elements, but you're also exhaling stress. You're exhaling trauma. You're exhaling all kinds of stored energy. You see, emotion, right? Emotion, we know, is energy in motion. So what you're doing when you don't experience your emotion, something happens, you don't deal with it, you store it. How does it store? It actually is energy. So if you don't process it, it congeals. When that congeals, it becomes something hard. It becomes something that becomes physical in your body. So deep breathing exercises, when you're moving all that stuff around, loosens it. And then the body is able to say, oh, let's get rid of these dead cells, let's get rid of this stuff, let's get rid of that stuff. Oh, I'm energy now. Okay, express that energy, get it out. So that's one of the reasons that you want to be doing a lot of this deep breathing, is to just get rid of this stuff that we've all been accumulating through life, right, through time. Because like anything, okay, like your closet, like your garage, it all gets stuffed up with things that we accumulate through time. But when it's emotions and it's experiences and it's traumas and it's all these kinds of things, that's the kind of thing that you want to have you want to have a major garage sale. You know, you want to get rid of stuff. So I don't know exactly where to go.